Exams are difficult, they were challenging, there was a lot of questions, so we'll see. And if you guys see me very disappointed in the next clip, you know why, or if you see me very happy in the next clip, you know why. Okay, so I'm taking a bit of a study break, so I just thought I would go over with you guys how I've been trying to study for Block 1 exams. So today is Thursday, and we have exams coming up next week. So we will be given all of the exams through an online software. They open on Saturday morning and will be closed on Thursday morning. So we get to choose at what point during the week we get to take those exams. And so for each class that we have an exam for, I kind of figured out a different way to study. So for molecular mechanisms and disease, the first thing I did to study was going through the lecture recordings and take notes. So I went through all the lectures and I took notes on all of the recordings. You guys can kind of see me catching up on this week's lectures. We actually had quite a bit of molecular mechanisms lectures this week that we still have to cover before the exam. So the first thing I do is I will listen to the lecture, or sometimes re-listen if I went to see it in person. I will listen to the lecture and then take notes on the slides. And then our professor actually wrote out what are called synopses for us. And so synopses are basically like the notes that you would take from the lecture if you were just listening to it in, let's say, undergrad. Our professor makes it really simple for us by just writing out the synopses and highlighting the most important aspects of the lecture, and then we'll stress what things we need to memorize versus understand. So sometimes with the mechanism, he will ask us to memorize, whereas other times he will just kind of ask us to know the general pathway and understand how everything fits together. So that's what I've been doing for molecular mechanisms. Now for anatomy, I've actually been using Anki. So I know that Anki's kind of hit or miss with people. I had a good time with it during undergrad when I was studying for the DATs. So with classes that are more memorization heavy, which clinical gross anatomy definitely is, I definitely prefer Anki over anything else. Although some people like to make their own Anki decks, and I think that does definitely help to memorize. What I did is I went through all of my anatomy lectures, and then I would do pre-made decks that were made by upperclassmen and students from years before us, and so it's really helpful to have those and not have to spend extra time doing that. And then for histology and pathology, I gotta say I've been really slacking, and class is not as dense and heavy in terms of material as some of our other classes. I have still yet to go through some of the lecture and lab recordings and just take some notes on how to identify certain structures, and then what you would be able to see in certain stains, and how that fits into our clinical assessment of patients. One thing that is interesting about Columbia and the fact that we're together with the medical school is that all of our professors kind of have us look at everything in terms of a case-based approach. So we're not just looking at a question that says, if this enzyme isn't working, what's going to happen in this pathway? We approach it as more of you have a patient that comes in, the following symptoms are present, you know this is this and this from the patient's history, and what would be your differential diagnosis. And so that really gets you thinking like a doctor, and I really love that our school really emphasizes that and a full body understanding for a lot of questions. Also, we are encouraged to think of all the possibilities as opposed to just one, because usually in medicine, you may be thinking that something is a certain disease, but you would also have other possibilities in mind. That's what a differential diagnosis is. It's not that you are for sure saying that this person has it, it's that you are saying that it's the most likely of all possibilities. And so for us, it's been really helpful to kind of see that presented to us in class, whether that's histology and pathology, whether that's molecular mechanisms, or even in anatomy. Now, an example of a question that we have would be, the professor would ask us, if this particular nerve were damaged, what muscles would be paralyzed and what movements would the patient no longer be able to do? And although that kind of deals with the basic understanding of muscles, joints, innervations, vasculature, all of that, it also has us thinking about, okay, you have a patient that comes in and you know that this nerve is injured. You have to think about the real life implication for that patient. What action are they not going to be able to do? Is that going to affect their life, their work, etc.? So it's really interesting to approach the study of medicine in the way that we are. Okay guys, so I just got home from my anatomy practical. It was the last exam in my series of Block 1 exams. Today we had the anatomy practical exam, which consisted of identifying structures on the cadaver or looking at images or radiographs of other structures. And I gotta say, I feel really good about the practical. I kind of am the type of person to like discuss exams, you know, answers and stuff in my group members and like think about the things that we could have possibly gotten wrong. I know some people hate that. They just like walk out of the exam, they don't want to hear it, they don't want to see it. I am not one of those people. I did feel really good about the exam. Our group is really strong. If I haven't mentioned, we take the practical as a group of 5. So whatever our dissection group is, that's who you take your practical with. So it was nice. And honestly, Mark, if you ever watch this, thank you for carrying our group through this. Everybody contributed their fair share, but sometimes, you know, it's good to have the ability to rely on others to fill in some of the gaps. And when you're looking at cadavers, obviously it's an imperfect science. It's hard to necessarily remember every single thing, so it's good to have other people supplement what you already know as well. That's done. And then, so today is Thursday, so basically since Columbia is pass-fail, we don't get our exam scores. We are just notified whether or not we pass or failed. Just if you get an email, it means that you failed one of the exams. Although it's really scary to think about failing an exam, in general, you know, we are lucky to be able to go to a school where, you know, you don't have to immediately like think about things like remediation. You just would have to retake the exam over the weekend if you were to fail one. Obviously, fingers crossed that that's not going to be me, but you know, you never know. Exams are difficult, they were challenging, there's a lot of questions. So we'll see, and if you guys see me very disappointed in the next clip, you know why. Or if you see me very happy in the next clip, you know why. So just relaxing, not thinking about anything tonight. We kind of have the rest of the week off since we don't have classes during exam week. So today is Thursday, that means we have, you know, kind of like a long weekend to relax before starting our next block on Monday.
Few moments later.
Okay, you guys, so like I said in the previous shot, if you see my reaction in the next story, you know how I did on my Block 1 exams, and I'm so excited and so relieved that I could finally breathe to say that I passed all my Block 1 exams, which is amazing because I was super stressed out. You know, the fact that we're able to take them from home does take away some of the anxiety of taking exams. Still, you know, there was two out of the 3 exams that I took I felt pretty confident in. The third one was longer and there were a lot more questions, and I actually ended up running out of time because I spent too much time on the questions in the beginning, and so I thought, well, there goes my wiggle room, you know, all the questions that I was really thinking super quickly on at the last minute and trying to answer. But thankfully, I'm so happy that it's done and that I don't have to think about it now. We still don't know what we got on the practical that we just took a few hours ago, but again, I have a lot of faith in my group. You know, we're all pretty strong and that hopefully we all did pretty well. But I just wanna, you know, take a moment, breathe a sigh of relief, and just enjoy my weekend because it's been kind of a lot in the past, you know, few days in the past week, I would say. Thankfully, despite all of that, you know, this was a huge learning curve for the first exam, and so I'm so happy, like ecstatic. You guys would not believe just how stressed out I was, and so I honestly, like, this week caused so much tension for me just in general, just because of like figuring things out. And so I'm really relieved. I know I've said that a bunch of times, but I really am relieved that it didn't get in the way of me doing well in these exams, and not even just doing well. You know, we're a pass-fail school, so the most important thing is, I guess, to just pass and understand the material well enough to carry you into the next block. But again, it's just about so much material, and it goes at such a fast pace that you don't think that you can handle it all. I'm so like, you guys can literally hear it. Like, I'm taking long, deep breaths because I've been literally holding my breath for the past like half an hour since my classmates started messaging a group chat and saying that our grades are up. And there was a glitch because all of our grades were somehow all listed as the same score, which is kind of impossible because there are 3 different tests, and I'm sure we didn't all get the same score for all 3 exams. And so we were just kind of figuring out that error. But now that it's done, I am so relieved. And I can't wait to just celebrate this weekend, relax. I had some tentative plans. Obviously, if I had not passed one of the exams, I would have to spend my weekend studying for the retake, but I had tentative plans to go apple picking, which is super fun. Then also kind of have like a little puppy date with one of my classmates and just bring our puppies to school and have some of our other classmates meet them. So I'm really excited to do that and just take a few days, take some breathing room, and just enjoy the fall. Weather is really lovely right now, and I'm really excited to go apple picking and, you know, have some apple cider donuts, which are amazing, and like some hot apple cider. It's the season for that. I'm trying to, I didn't have the fall spirit yet, but now I can finally get into it a little bit. So